Hi, so in my last video I did promise that I'd come back and do a video that explains how to adjust the grind volume that comes out of the grinder so that it doesn't overfill the portafilter basket or underfill it. So the symptoms you'll get, if it's overfilled, you'll find it's hard to actually get the portafilter to lock into the group head. You can't get it to lock in, and in fact what happened to me on one occasion, it actually popped out mid-pour and I got a horrible mess all over the kitchen floor. Or it could be, if the grind volume is too low, it means that this will go in without any effort at all. But what happens is the water flows too quickly through the coffee grind and you get a very thin, flavourless shot. So it's important to have that set right, and in my case on the new machine it wasn't exactly set right, so I had to adjust it. So I thought I'd just show you how to do that because it is a little bit tricky if you don't know what you're doing. So it all happens up underneath here, and what you need to do, we'll start by getting the tools out, and all the tools you need are conveniently stored inside this little compartment underneath. We're going to take this little brush tool here, that one there, and in that handle there's actually a magnet in there, a little rare earth magnet, and what that does is it locks onto the little tamping wheel inside there and it pops out like that, you see? Magic. So this is a little wheel that actually tamps the coffee. It's kind of just a little spiral shaped wheel, and it spins around anti-clockwise, and as it spins it compacts and smooths the top of the coffee grinds. So that's the thing that does all the work. That's not what we're going to adjust, but it's important to give that a clean from time to time, so you need to know how to get that out of the machine. Now if you put your finger up inside there where that came from, you can feel there's a little shaft in there, a little metal shaft that this actually locks onto, and it's actually held on by a magnet. So inside there's a rare earth magnet that grips onto that shaft. That shaft, we need to get that out to make the adjustment. And the trick here, the shaft actually screws in, but it's a left-handed thread, so instead of tightening when you turn it clockwise, it actually untightens when you turn clockwise. So the trick here is to just turn that in a clockwise direction and it'll begin to unscrew. It shouldn't be more than finger tight, so you shouldn't have any trouble getting that to unscrew, and you keep turning it until it basically pops off in your hand, like so. And this is the little fella here, right? I don't know if you'll be able to see this on the camera, but I'll do my best to show you what it is. It's actually an assembly, and there's a small little shaft of steel here with two flat spots on it, and that's what that little spirally paddle locks onto. And then there's this collar with a grub screw. Okay, and this is how you actually adjust it. So to do that, you need to, in the kit that comes with the machine, there's a little Allen key here. That little Allen key is used to loosen that grub screw. So that's it there. And once you loosen off that grub screw, you can unscrew. I didn't loosen it enough. Loosen it off a bit more. And then you can unscrew that, you see. And the more you unscrew it, the more that shaft protrudes from the collar. So what happens there, if you imagine that up inside the machine, as that shaft comes lower and lower, it means that it's going to engage more quickly with the top of the coffee that's filling up in this direction. Now, inside the machine there is a little micro switch. So this itself is then locked onto a shaft inside the machine, and that shaft can move up and down, and as it moves up, it activates a little micro switch, and that micro switch is what tells the computer inside the machine to stop grinding. It's saying basically, I've got enough coffee now, I don't need any more, just stop grinding, okay? So by adjusting this, we can actually set the level at which the the basket inside the portafilter fills up with coffee. And there's an ideal height that you want to achieve for that. So that height, as I said in my other video, it's approximately, I would say, 5 millimeters, 4 or 5 millimeters from the top of the, that's hot, 4 or 5 millimeters from the top of the rim of the basket. You want it to be about 4 or 5 millimeters below that, and that gives you the perfect pour. So yeah, you can judge that just by looking at it or use a ruler to measure it. It's a bit of trial and error. So, you know, you need to adjust it, make an adjustment, do a grind and see what level it comes out at. And you might have to adjust it again and do a grind. But eventually you'll zero in on the right level. And the best indicator that you've got that level right is, you know, a good consistent pour that's not coming out too fast, and also that the as I showed you in the last video, when you actually remove this portafilter from the machine, you'll see a pattern in the top of the coffee puck, which is actually created by the mesh that the water flows through into the portafilter. And if you're seeing that, then that's a good sign you've got the height just right. And also, as I said, if you've got the height right, this should engage sort of like pretty much perpendicular to the machine when it's coming out like it is now at 90 degrees. That means, you know, you've got that you know, hitting the resistance at the right point. So that's the best way I can describe it. It's, you know, it's not the easiest adjustment to do, but it's not, you know, beyond the realms of any, you know, appliance owner. It's something that you may not have to adjust. It could be right out of the factory, but if it's not, it's worth spending the time to get that right, because what I found was, to begin with, was that, well, at first it was overfilling, and it caused all sorts of problems for me. But also when I adjusted it, I overcompensated it, and for a while it was underfilling, and then I was getting this really thin, watery coffee. So it obviously is fairly important to the result that you get out of the machine, and so that's why I thought it's worth doing the video on this, so that you can get that set up just how it needs to be. Any questions? As always, put a question in the comment section and I'll do my best to answer it for you. And have a great day and enjoy your coffee.